It is Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very fun Get Your Ass Kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday. We didn't do a lot of like real technique stuff. We concentrated a little bit more on sparring, but we did do a couple really neat sweeps. And they were, I had a little bit of difficulty with them, I'll be honest. I don't know, I've always had a little bit of trouble with sweeps in general, but these ones in particular was kind of weird angles. Although the second one, I actually managed to get quite a good hold on, and it was kind of like a reaping position. On shifting the leg, where you wrap up around the hip with the outside leg, and then brace on the inside leg, and then just kind of roll to the side that you had the outside leg on, and you take your opponent down. And so anyway, I really liked that one, and it was funny because the first variant of that, my partner, he immediately tried to go to the ankle hook on that. And it's right there because you have your opponent's foot trapped under your armpit, kind of. And so all you really have to do is drop the cup of your elbow down below their heel and lock it up over the top of their leg, and you got that heel hook. So anyway, it was just kind of humorous to me because he was relatively new. I don't know if he trained somewhere else or what, but I hadn't seen him in our gym before, and he was wearing a white belt, so I was assuming, of course, that he was brand spanking new, although something in his grips kind of told me that he was holding back a little something. I don't know exactly what. I get a lot of that vibe from wrestlers, because they do have a little bit of grappling experience, and so it's not entirely alien to them, and so they know about things like grips and whatnot. And but there's always just like a little something off, It's like the vocabulary of the body under the context of jiu-jitsu is just a slightly different object than it is under the wrestling or standard wrestling kind of context. That's a good word for it. But anyway, like I said, there's always just, something missing. And one of the things I've noticed that's usually missing is finesse. And it's kind of unfortunate for me because, they tend to address my strength with strength. Whereas I'm not just strong, I can be kind of smart occasionally, and I can do something kind of smart, and so, they tend to mess up that way. But yeah, I've had such a continuous week of jiu-jitsu. I took one day off, which was yesterday, but I'm going to be going probably to 2 classes tomorrow, and then on Friday we're doing our little how should I say, upgrades? Not upgrades. That's the wrong word. Spending too much time in crypto, man. Everything's an upgrade. No, we're going to be doing awards, so like those who have earned belts will be making their migration up in belt, and those who have earned stripes will be getting their stripes. And hopefully, I'm kind of hoping that I may get a stripe. I don't expect it, because the first stripe is like the hardest to get on your blue belt. And in all honesty, I haven't been a blue belt all that long, but I do feel like over the last couple months, my game is starting to get some basis or some formulation. I don't feel like completely lost on the mat anymore, but I still do end up lost a lot of the time. Like the guy that I rolled with at the end, he's very good. He's also a blue belt, and he does have, I think he has a stripe or two on me. I'm not entirely sure. But in any case, I was rolling with him, and he's really good. I think the only reason I was as tied up as I was with him is because he was that much more experienced with jiu-jitsu in particular. But otherwise, I think I held my own pretty well. I actually managed to negotiate out of some really, really hard positions. And the only thing that really saved me was this strength that I have. It's like that last moment strength where, your opponent's got both hooks in and it's not looking very good. They got one hand across your chest, it got you in seatbelt position. There's this like thing where it's like my brain kind of turns on and immediately I'm trying to shift your elbow up over my head. I'm trying to adjust my hips so that I've got one of your feet, I'm working towards a half guard position as opposed to being completely fucked. And so I did manage that, and it was funny because he was trying to guide me into a bow and arrow choke, but I kept my hand up, and so he wasn't able to pull the gi tight enough across my face, or actually he was pulling it across my face because I had it diverted upward, and so it wasn't digging into my neck and choking me out like he was trying to do. But anyway, so I was preventing him from getting the bow and arrow choke. And at the last moment, I managed to negotiate out of it, and I was just coming into side control, and the fucking bell went off. But it was funny because there's this point, right when they get that hook in, and they're going for that second hook. There's this point, where they start hearing their breath get a little faster, and they get a little more excited, get a little more tense, because it's like, oh, it's so close. I can, if I can just get my arm under his chin, and lift it up high enough and lock it down, I can choke this guy out. And wouldn't that be so great? Because he's got me by 30 pounds. Like I said, there's that point, and it happened for him too. I heard it happen where as soon as he got that arm up over and he grabbed onto my collar, and he thought he was kind of locked in. I'm like, oh, there it is, because I could hear it, man. His fucking breath started getting really loud in my ear, and so what I did was I got my left hand up under his wrist, up under his right wrist, and then cupped it to the left side of my face. And so when he was pulling the collar, thinking that he's pulling it across my neck, he's pulling it across my hand and my face. And that's basically the only thing that saved me from the bow and arrow choke. But I felt him kind of loosen up just a little bit, and that's when I sprung to action, where I pushed off the hand really quick and slid the foot out from under, and I started to negotiate around to a side control. But like I said, I was denied by the bell. Anywho, let's go ahead and throw down into some music. I have not picked anything out for subject matter. I got a few tabs as normal. I don't go entirely blind. But yeah, so I'm feeling a little more frisky on the mat these days, and so here it is, Bloodlust, First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was White Zombie with Black Sunshine. Yeah, and you know what they're talking about with sweetening the ride, don't you? Yep, a little bit of acid. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, I haven't the slightest clue, man. I got all this stuff here, and I got tabs and tabs and tabs. And the one thing that did really interest me today that I caught was this one on Cointelegraph.com. And I always torture you guys with live reads of legislation and whatnot, but it's only to educate you, because a lot of the projects that you see in the cryptosphere, while it isn't really necessary, in my book at least, to ask for anybody's permission to do these things or do anything in cryptocurrencies. I really believe that's up to you and the people that you do business with. However, there are certain actions, there are certain functions that software performs and servers perform and so on, and banks perform, that are highly regulated. And many times, kids that are making these projects might not be fully disclosing what your legal liability may be in the event that you're performing services for other people. And, again, I don't believe it's anybody's business to tell you how to crypto. I believe that that's between you and whoever you're doing business with. The exchange rate you're going by, what products that you're offering and services you're offering, and the conditions by which you're offering them. Again, those are between you and your customers. However, there are these entities called governments, and they still have some sort of fantasy that what they say is going to actually impact what you do. And in many cases, the kinds of things that I see them trying to regulate and the ways that I see them trying to regulate them, they have absolutely nothing to do with protection of you as the customer or investor or business person. They're constructed more or less to ensure the interests of existing incumbents. And we like to refer to them as legacy bankers, so on and so forth. And, of course, they have a lot of tendencies within their jobs that, after a while they develop kind of expectations of what they expect a business to do and how they expect a financial entity to operate. And unfortunately, a lot of these models and expectations, not only do they not square with cryptocurrencies, but a lot of them are absolutely unnecessary, simply because there isn't any trust involved in the actual transactions themselves. It's a matter of the fucking transaction happened or it didn't. I don't have to trust you that it happened. You can tell me, oh yeah, we wrote a check for it, it's in the mail. And I don't know until I actually receive the check, and I don't even know then whether or not it's good, unless of course you give me the number off of it and I can check it against records online. But before we even had that capability, you had to trust the entire float. That 3 to 5 business day period, between when you received it and when you tried to cash it, as to whether or not the funds were actually there. Well, we don't have that trust interval. Either the fucking funds are there or they're not. The transaction is in the mempool somewhere waiting to be included in a block, or it is not. And there are a lot of people that are trying to funk around with the state of the funds and put them back in a trust-related rubric that you have to trust at the end of the day that when that transaction settles on the blockchain, that you're going to get the money that you're entitled to. That it hasn't been squandered away in a value differential from when you initially put the funds on there until when they became basically dust because the transaction fees on the Bitcoin network became so expensive that you could no longer afford to transact it to anybody, at least not off chain. Because, of course, again, that requires the transaction to be recorded on the blockchain, and that's got an associated transaction fee. And if the funds that you have on your node or the funds that you're wanting to transact is under the threshold of the transaction fee, it's now become dust and it's unspendable. And see, I imagine that it sometime in the not so distant future, Bitcoin being over like say $50,000-$60,000, it'll be completely, you will not be able to afford to continue to do any on-chain transactions, and so you'll have to rely on third parties to do that for you. And a lot of people have kind of condemned me for saying these things. I've wagered several times that I'm probably the most blocked person on crypto Twitter because of these assertions. And honestly, I really don't give a shit, because I would much rather be unpopular for saying the truth than being really popular for fucking lying to people. That's just how I roll. Anyway, so bankers in Congress thinking they really have something to say about a cryptocurrency that's designed and deployed by a 14-year-old in Uzbekistan. We got this article here on Cointelegraph.com by Anna Alexandra. So no penis. And this is supposedly authored 55 minutes ago. Let's get a reload here. 5 hours ago. There we go. Major bank CEOs testify at U.S. Congress. Topics include blockchain and crypto. Chief executive officers of leading banks testified before the United States House of Representatives Financial Services Committee on April 10th about how the banking industry is transformed since the 2008 financial crisis. Not at all. Among many topics spanning the breadth of the banking industry, the CEOs and lawmakers discussed blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. During his allotted time for questioning, Representative Warren Davidson, Republican, argued that the industry is entering into a new era of innovation wherein blockchain technology is transforming existing financial systems as well as cybersecurity. Davidson also noted that the U.S. is currently staggering behind due to regulatory certainty issues. No, dude, no. It's not regulatory certainty issues. It's regulators, period. They should just go fuck off. Davidson addressed Jamie Dimon, chairman and CEO of one of the largest financial institutions in the U.S., J.P. Morgan Chase, stressing that back in 2017, Dimon called cryptocurrencies, quote, not a real thing. While this year, JPM unveiled JPM Coin and stated that, quote, we are supportive of cryptocurrencies as long as they are properly controlled and regulated. No. Fuck yourself. Number one, JPM Coin is not an actual cryptocurrency by the standards of Bitcoin or other proof-of-work coin. There are no public miners mining JPM Coin right now. Or if there are, I don't know about them. Anyway, so yeah, they've got a token, and they're claiming that it's a cryptocurrency and that they should have something to say about cryptocurrencies that you deploy. And yeah, go fuck yourself. In response, Dimon said that blockchain will work over time, adding that, quote, the part that is not real is that cryptocurrency is not supported by anything. There is no value behind it other than what the next person will pay. That's not true either. The value behind it is you. And Jamie Dimon can't understand that because he doesn't value you. You're just a fucking peon to him. So the idea that you are creating value by the work that you put out on a network is completely fucking alien to him. You're not supposed to be participating in finance at all, according to him. Continuing on. Davidson also addressed the chairman and CEO of the Bank of New York Mellon, Charles Scharf, noting that the company's website states lack of regulatory clarity as a barrier to providing custody for digital assets. You know what they mean by regulatory clarity? They mean kicking you the fuck out of finance. That's what they mean. Quote, cryptocurrencies are very early in their existence. They are not significant today to speak of in terms of being used as a real currency to move value, and so we are actively thinking about what we want to do. One of the biggest issues that we have relates to any money laundering and know your customer bullshit. Yeah, we've already stated on this show that KYC is actually worse than the disease. You know, in my opinion, all AML KYC is making sure poor people stay poor and rich people get to stay rich. That's it. Continuing. Other topics include the bank's role in housing market crash, i.e. the base of it, bank financing for private prisons, and even their equity and diversity policies. Representative Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez noted fines the banks paid for disproportionately low salaries for minority and female employees. Yesterday, representatives in the House of Representatives, including Representative Davidson, reintroduced the Token Taxonomy Act, the bill that would exclude cryptocurrency from being classified as a security. The act pursues the introduction of regulatory certainty for business and regulators in the U.S. blockchain industry, as well as clarifying conflicting state initiatives and regulatory rulings that have confused the issue. Yeah. I've never actually... I don't know that I've read the Token Taxonomy Act. Let me see if it's actually... Yeah. I guess it is available. It's only 14 pages. Fuck, we could eat that. Yeah, we could definitely take that down. Why not? Yeah, we're going to do it. The Token Taxonomy Act. I'm not entirely certain that I haven't read this before. But the fact of the matter is that regardless of what this I guess proposition or some shit, or bill or whatever has to say, act. There we go. Whatever this act has to say about cryptocurrencies, it doesn't have any real impact on what you create, what you decide to mine, what variant you decide to mine. And I think that's the point that a lot of these people seem to miss about cryptocurrencies, is that they do to money what the invention of the firearm did to the distribution of force. And it's really funny because it's easy to forget that most guns are actually manufactured by family companies. Remington, that's somebody's last name. That's not, some IKEA or something like that. It's somebody's last name that's associated with the firearm. Barrett, Heckler and Koch, Ruger. These are all last names. What I guess what I'm trying to get to with this is that firearms and violence isn't distributed by governments. It's distributed by those who have the tools of violence. And as the inventors of the tools of violence, i.e. you have just as much capability of distributing violence as anybody else, including a government. So, cryptocurrencies due to finance, specifically digital finance, what the invention of the firearm did to the distribution of force. Because you don't actually have to exert violence in order to get somebody to do something. That's force. So anyway, the point I'm getting at here is that they can say exactly what they want to. And as a matter of fact, I might actually have an article up here about it. I guess the Chinese, their government is getting all itchy about mining again. I caught on my Twitter feed, some guy had posted that what'll basically happen is that the miners will take down a whole bunch of old miners, take pictures of them, replace them with new miners, and send the pictures to the Chinese government saying, see, we took them down. Because basically that's like what happened last time. Was that the government thought they'd achieved something for a moment, and the Chinese people did something entirely opposite. And we see this happening again and again, and so it leads me to believe that, number one, the Chinese government isn't as omnipotent as they'd like to project to everybody else that they actually are, and thus I don't believe the same of the U.S. government. As a matter of fact, there's a kid on Twitter, or there's actually a few of them now I've noticed, that are posting little clips of test firings of firearms that they're making lowers for with 3D printers. And the information is out there, kids. Trying to block it in one source, it's going to make it more popular. You should have learned this with fucking Cody Wilson. When he took that guy to court and tried to get all his shit taken down, what happened? Same thing that happened with Silk Road. You took down Silk Road, you put Ross in prison. 80 fucking sites pop up on the dark web where I can get really, really, really good MDMA. So what was the effect? Were you intending to get these markets to propagate, or were you trying to control the market? And so when you're viewing things from that perspective, looking at cryptocurrencies, something that you can't really stop the transaction of, or transmission of between one person and another, you might as well be trying to catch water with your hands. I mean, you might be able to cup some of it for a little while, but you can't do anything else with your hands while you're cupping it. And there's this whole river around you of flowing water. So you stop the water in your hands, but there's this entire river around you. And it's flowing no matter what you do. And you can grab some more of it, but you're only going to be able to hold what you got in your hand. You're not actually stopping the river from flowing. And the same can be said for any kind of cryptocurrency regulation. That you can say all kinds of stuff, but you're only going to be able to catch so many people, and the river will continue to flow. Let's get into this thing. So it is the 2019 version of the Token Taxonomy Act. Yeah, tax on you, basically. 116th Congress, first session, HR, no number, so apparently it's not actually, I don't know. It doesn't have an ordering yet. To amend the Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 to exclude digital tokens from the definition of a security, to direct the Securities and Exchange Commission to enact certain regulatory changes regarding digital units. I had to inflate the size here a little bit. Digital units secured through public key cryptography, to adjust the taxation of virtual currencies held in individual retirement accounts, to create a tax exemption for exchanges of one virtual currency for another, to create a de minimis exemption from taxation for gains realized from the sale or exchange of virtual currency for other than cash and for other purposes. So in other words, using cryptocurrencies as money, I guess they're going to try and exclude that, when the fact of the matter is they can't actually force you to pay sales tax. In the House of Representatives, Mr. Davidson of Ohio introduced the following bill, which was referred to the Committee on and then blank. Bill to amend the Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 to exclude digital tokens from the definition of a security, to direct the Securities and Exchange Commission to enact certain regulatory changes regarding digital units secured through public key and cryptography, to adjust taxation of virtual currencies held in individual retirement accounts. Okay, continuing. We got all that. Okay. Exemption from gains realized from the sale of exchange. Okay. Being enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Token Taxonomy Act of 2019. Section 2, Securities Act of 1933. A. Definition of digital token, Section 2A of the Securities Act of 1933, 15 U.S.C. 77BA, is amended by adding at the following 20, or line 20, digital token. A term, quote, digital token means a digital unit, A, that is created 1. In response to the verification or collection of proposed transactions, 2. Pursuant to rules for the digital unit's creation and supply that cannot be altered by any single person or persons under common control, or 3. As an initial allocation of digital units that will otherwise be created in accordance with Clause 1 or 2. B. That has a transaction history that 1. Is recorded in a distributed digital ledger or digital data structure in which consensus is achieved through a mathematically verifiable process, and 2. After consensus is reached, resists modification or tampering by any single person or group of persons under common control. C. That is capable of being transferred between persons without an intermediate custodian, and D. That is not a representation of a financial interest in a company or partnership, including an ownership interest or a revenue share. 21. Digital unit. The term digital unit means a representation of economic, proprietary, or access rights that is stored in a computer readable format. B. Definition of security. Section 2A1 of the Securities Act of 1933, 15 U.S.C. 77B A1, is amended, number 1, by inserting A after 1, and 2, by adding at the end the following. B. Such terms does not include a digital token. C. Exemption. Section 4A of the Securities Act of 1933, 15 U.S.C. 77DA, is amended by adding at the end the following. 8. Transactions involving the offer, promotion, or sale of a digital unit if, number 1, or A rather, the person offering, promoting, or selling the digital unit has a reasonable and good faith belief that such digital unit is a digital token, and B. Within 90 days following a written notification from the Commission to such person that such digital unit has been determined by the Commission to be a security, posts public notice of such notification and takes reasonable efforts to cease all sales and return all proceeds from any sales of such digital unit, excluding funds reasonably spent on development of technology associated with the digital unit. What about the cost of continuing to mine? Anyway, continuing. D. Preemption of state law. Section 18 of the Securities Act of 1933, 15 U.S.C. 77R, is amended. Number 1. By redesignating subsection D as subsection E and inserting, and 2, by inserting after subsection E the following. D. Digital tokens. Number 1. In general, no law, rule, regulation, or order or other administrative action of any state or any political subdivision thereof, A. Requiring or with respect to registration or qualification of securities or registration of or qualification of securities transactions shall directly or indirectly apply to a digital token. B. Shall directly or indirectly prohibit, limit, or impose any conditions upon the use of, number 1, with respect to a digital token, any disclosure document concerning an offer or sale of a digital token that is prepared by or on behalf of a person developing, offering, or selling a digital token, or, number 2, any proxy statement, report to digital token holders, or other disclosure document relating to a digital token or a person developing, offering, or selling a digital token. C. Shall directly or indirectly prohibit, limit, or impose conditions based on the merits of a digital token offering or a person developing, offering, or selling a digital token upon the offer or sale of any digital token. Or D. Shall directly or indirectly require the filing of any notices or other documents or assessment of any fees with respect to digital tokens or digital token transactions. Shall require the filing of any Number 2, the preservation of fraud authority. States and political subdivisions thereof shall retain jurisdiction under the laws of such state to investigate and bring enforcement actions with respect to fraud or deceit or unlawful conduct by any person in connection with digital tokens or digital token transactions. Section 3, Securities Exchange Act of 1934. A. Definition of bank. Section 3A.6c of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. 15 U.S.C. 78C A.6c is amended. Number 1. By inserting, quote, or trust company after the Homeowners Loan Act, and number 2, by striking, quote, receiving deposits or exercising fiduciary powers, and inserting receiving deposits, providing custodial services, or exercising fiduciary powers. B. Definition of security. Section 3A.10 of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, 15 U.S.C. 78 A10 is amended. Number 1, by inserting A after 1, and 2, by inserting at the end the following. B. Such term does not include a digital token. Gotta wonder exactly what the context was for that one. C. Definition of digital token. Section 3A of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, 15 U.S.C. 78C A is amended by adding at the end the following. 82. Digital token. The term digital token has the meaning given to it in Section 2A of the Securities Act of 1933. D. Clerical amendments. Section 3A of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, 15 U.S.C. 78CA is amended. Number 1, by moving paragraph 79 so as to appear after paragraph 78, and number 2, by redesignating the second paragraph 80 relating to, quote, funding portal as paragraph 81. Section 4, Investment Advisors Act of 1934. A. Definition of digital token. Section 202A of the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, 15 U.S.C. 80B-2A is amended. Number 1, by redesignating the second paragraph 29 as paragraph 31, and 2, by adding at the end the following. 32. The term, quote, digital token has the meaning given to it in Section 2A of the Securities Act of 1933. B. Definition of security. Section 202A-18 of the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, 15 U.S.C. 80B-2A18 is amended. Number 1, by inserting after 18 and by adding at the end the following. B. Such term does not include a digital token. C. Definition of bank. Section 202A-2C of the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, 15 U.S.C. 80B-2A2C is amended by striking, quote, receiving deposits or exercising fiduciary powers and inserting, quote, receiving deposits, providing custodial services, or exercising fiduciary powers. Section 5, Investment Company Act of 1940. A. Definition of digital token. Section 202A of the Investment Company Act of 1940, 15 U.S.C. 80A-2A is amended by adding at the end the following. 55. The term digital token has the meaning given to it in Section 2A of the Securities Act of 1933. B. Definition of a security. Section 202A36 of the Investment Company Act of 1940, 15 U.S.C. 80A-2A36 is amended. Number 1, by inserting A after 36, and 2, by adding at the end the following. B, such term does not include digital token. C, definition of a bank, Section 2A5 of the Investment Company Act of 1940, 15 U.S.C. 80A-2A5 is amended by striking, quote, receiving deposits or exercising fiduciary powers, and inserting, quote, receiving deposits, providing custodial services, or exercising fiduciary powers. Section 6, Rule of Construction with respect to CFTC and FTC. Nothing in this Act or the amendments made by this Act shall be construed to limit the application of the Commodity Exchange Act or Federal Trade Commission Act. In other words, the CFTC and SEC still have their jobs. Section 7, Satisfactory Control Location Requirement. Not later than 90 days after the date of the enactment of this Act, the Commission shall amend Section 240.15C3-3 of Title 17, Code of Federal Regulations, to provide that the requirement for a satisfactory control location for any digital unit, as defined under Section 2A of the Securities Act of 1933, that is a security, is fulfilled by protecting the digital unit using public key cryptography and by following commercially reasonable cybersecurity practices to maintain the privacy and accessibility of sufficient private key material to solely be able to sign on behalf of such digital unit. Let's see here. Section 8, Individual Retirement Account Investments in certain virtual currencies not traded as distributions, or not treated as distributions. A, in general, Section 408M of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended. Number 1, in paragraph 3, A, in the heading of the paragraph by striking, quote, and bullion, and inserting bullion and virtual currencies. B, in subparagraph A4 by striking or. C, in subparagraph B by inserting or after futures contract. Interesting. D, by inserting after subparagraph B the following. C, virtual currency, and E, by striking, quote, if such bullion, and inserting this paragraph shall apply only to bullion, which, and number 2, by adding at the end the following. Number 4, virtual currency defined. For purposes of this subsection, the term virtual currency means a digital representation of value that is used as a medium of exchange and is not currency within the meaning of Section 988. B, effective date. The amendments made by this section shall apply to sales or exchanges on or after January 1st, 2017. Section 9, certain exchanges of virtual currencies treated as non-taxable exchanges. A, in general, Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended. Number 1, in the heading by striking, quote, real property and inserting, quote, certain property. 2, in subsection A by adding at the end the following new paragraph. Number 4, exchange of virtual currency. An exchange of virtual currency as defined under Section 408M shall be treated as if such exchange were an exchange of real property under this section. B, clerical amendment. The table of parts for paragraph 3 of subchapter 0 of chapter 1 shall of such code is amended by striking, quote, exchange of real property and inserting, quote, exchange of certain property. C. Effective date. The amendments made by this section shall apply to exchanges made on or after January 1st, 2017. Section 10. Gain from sale or exchange of virtual currency. A. In general, Part 3 of Subchapter B of Chapter 1 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is amended by inserting after Section 139F the following new section. Section 139G. Gain from sale or exchange of virtual currency. A. In general, gross income shall not include gain from sale or exchange of virtual currency as defined under Section 408M for other than cash or cash equivalents. That's really, really significant right there. What they're basically saying in my understanding here, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I've read quite a bit of legislation. What they're saying right here is that exchanging one cryptocurrency for another, it would not necessarily be a taxable event, save for the points where it's being traded for cash or cash equivalent. So when you're cashing out Bitcoin for cash, they're counting that as a taxable event. Or if you're spending your Bitcoin as money in a transaction, that could be viewed as a taxable event under this interpretation. Continuing on. B. Limitation. Number 1. In general, the amount of gain excluded from gross income under subsection A with respect to a sale or exchange of virtual currency shall not exceed $600. Oh, yeah, you can go fuck yourself on that one, dude. Number 2. Aggregation rule. For purposes of this subsection, all sales or exchanges which are part of the same transaction or a series of related transactions shall be treated as one sale or exchange. C. Inflation adjustment. In the case of any taxable year beginning in a calendar year after 2018, the dollar amount in subsection B shall be increased by an amount equal to, number 1, such dollar amount multiplied by, number 2, the cost of living adjustment determined under section 1F3 for the calendar year in which the taxable year begins, determined by substituting calendar year 2017 for calendar year 2016 in subparagraph A2 thereof. So they're making this basically effective in 2016 as opposed to 2017. Any increase determined under the preceding sentence shall be rounded to the nearest multiple of $50. B. Clerical amendment. The table of sections for Part 3 of Subchapter B of Chapter 1 of such code is amended by inserting after the item relating to Section 139F the following new item. Quote, Section C139G, gain from sale or exchange of virtual currency. C. Reporting gains or losses. The Secretary of the Treasury shall issue regulations providing for information returns on transactions in virtual currency, as defined under Section 408M of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, for which gain or loss is recognized. D. Effective date. The amendments made by this section shall apply with respect to transactions entered into on or after January 1st, 2017. Oh yeah, so basically after the collapse. And so yeah, that's it. Well, judging by the volume of people that are reporting their taxes in funds made in virtual currencies or cryptocurrencies, I could tell you that the likelihood of even these modifications causing a vast increase in some level of compliance is nil. Basically, the only people that you're going to get that are going to endure the cost of trying to adhere to this shit and comply with it are going to be banks. And the thing of it is that we don't actually need banks in order to transact cryptocurrencies or even to store them. So the friction point that you previously had, where we would be trapped into a situation wherein we would have to use like Wells Fargo or Visa or MasterCard or anybody else like that as our third-party intermediary, that friction point is really, it's gone. And I really expect that to be a stumbling point for a lot of these people, because the funny part about it is the people that are petitioning them to do this shit, I know it's not you, it's not me, so who is it, right? It's bankers. If you read really carefully into this, a banker will be able to do like billions of fucking transactions during a month period time in a payment channel, and it's only going to count as one transaction. That's according to this Taxonomy Act. Now, how is that going to be fair to you, who is not going to be able to afford to establish a payment channel worth millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars? How is that going to be fair to you? And so when you're looking at the kinds of changes that people are proposing in cryptocurrency, you have to consider the things like this legislation, where they are talking about adjusting the conditions of which you can do business in, and the ways in which you can issue cryptocurrencies to the rest of the market. Now, the real shame of this is that they might actually pass something like this, and they may actually get some level of compliance with it. But the problem is it's not the cryptocurrency and whatever's happening in it, or the cryptocurrency project or the exchange or the whatever, is going to continue operating outside of the United States, i.e. outside of the jurisdiction where this shit can be applied to you. You know, besides people using Tor and VPNs and all that other shit to actually engage in this stuff anyway, besides all that, we're losing out on all the economic activity that's being facilitated by cryptocurrencies that's outside of the jurisdiction of the regulatory bodies that wish to hammer down on the rest of us. And worse yet, it turns a bunch of us who are not actually criminals, aren't terrorists or anybody that wants to do anything bad to anybody else, into a bunch of fucking criminals. I mean, if you wanted an indication that this is not a game, you know, there you have it. You know, they just threw some kid in jail for 2 years for transacting Bitcoin for US dollars. You know, they nailed him for being an unlicensed operator. I was like, dude, fuck you. He's not a money transmitter. He's not a custodian. He's just facilitating a trade. And the fact of the matter is that if they were really to apply that level of regulatory scrutiny to the rest of the cryptosphere, specifically these multi-million-dollar transactions that we see happening on the networks, they would find out that their sponsors are the people that are conducting these OTC trades, and not in any regulated exchange or anything like that. They're doing these trades for cash and to people that have the money to do it. And they're not reporting that shit. They're amongst the big nebulous gray cloud of non-reporting cryptocurrency users and hodlers and investors and exchangers that aren't reporting for taxes. And it's funny because the IRS is basically just shut up about it. You know, they back in like 2014 through, I would say a little bit into 2016, we saw the IRS, you know, yelling at everybody, "Oh, you better start reporting your shit for tax." Yeah, whatever. Never happened. Hasn't happened. Probably isn't going to happen anytime soon. Not even with these adjustments to the Taxonomy Act. But yeah, I basically see this as a waste of time. Because again, they're trying to make declarations about the behavior of cryptocurrencies that are deployed by kids that don't know these things are even enacted and by Congress. I mean, what are you gonna do? Hunt them down? Fucking break into their house at 3 o'clock in the morning, arrest them? Some fucking kid that's just smarter than most of the people around him. And for being smart. That's the saddest part about it. Punishing intelligence. But yeah, like I said, I think the reason why we won't see very much in the enforcement realm is because too much enforcement will ensnare the various people that pay these legislators to do certain things in Congress. You know, I want you to vote a certain way. Here's $500,000, in Dogecoin. And of course, at the time, they don't worry about it. But, then when they sneak one of these pieces of legislation through, and it's retroactively enacted back to 2016, shit. There's your regulatory capture. You and like 3 or 4 other Congress people just got ensnared in the shit with something that can be verified publicly. Because the transactions were performed on public networks. This is why you do not see more severe enforcement actions in the cryptosphere. Because invariably, they will ensnare their sponsors. And their kids. It happens. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I want some Meshuggah. So here it is. Concatenation. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Ministry with Rio Grande Blood. And so yeah, we covered the Taxonomy Act. Or Taxonomy? Yeah, it's something like that. I'm sure somebody felt it was a pain in their rear. Anyway, one of the reasons why I was kind of compelled to dive into that thing is I got this other thing here. It's a statement by Bittrex. Bittrex, statement on the New York Department of Financial Services, NYDFS's decision. And this is apparently today at 9:41. No indication of time zone or whether that was AM PM. So anyway, continuing. Bittrex is saddened and disappointed in today's decision by the New York Department of Financial Services, which we believe harms rather than protects New York customers. Bittrex fully disputes the findings of the NYDFS in today's decision. We have worked diligently with the NYDFS to address their questions and to meet their requirements since first applying for our BIT license in August of 2015. First and foremost, we adamantly disagree with the NYDFS's claims and allegations in regard to our anti-money laundering, AML, and compliance practices. Corporate responsibility is in our DNA, and our commitment to regulatory and compliance guidelines is second to none. More specifically, today's letter contains several factual inaccuracies that we feel must be addressed. Internal policies, procedures, and controls. Number 1. Bittrex implemented transaction monitoring and is in the process of fully automating that process. Number 2. Bittrex maintains a risk assessment framework approved by outside counsel and fully trains all company employees in its AML policies and procedures. Number 3. Bittrex screens for SDNs when a customer opens accounts and tracks all SDN updates from OFAC. Checking our customer upon notice, we are enabling continuous automated screening with a new system going into effect this quarter. Number 4. The Iranian customers referenced in the letter were reported to OFAC in January 2018. We do not have and have never had any North Korean customers. Customer due diligence. Number 1. Sample included by NYDFS was taken from 2017. Since then, we have mandated full customer identification, including the requirement that all customers submit government-issued ID and a selfie, which is then compared against the ID to ensure a match. We have disabled all accounts not meeting this enhanced verification standard. This is the industry standard not only in virtual currency but also in traditional banking. Number 2. The letter mentions accounts with names that did not match. There were less than a dozen of these names in total, and none of those accounts were ever active, and none of these accounts ever made a trade. The fact that these accounts were unable to trade demonstrates the effectiveness of our diligence process rather than a deficiency, as the NYDFS alleges. Additionally, today's letter withholds key content or context from the review process. In January of this year, NYDFS presented to Bittrex a supervisory agreement that, if agreed to, would have resulted in the issuance of a bit license and a money transmission license. There were significant issues with the agreement. Number 1. Coin restrictions and regulatory overreach. The agreement restricted the coins we could offer to New York residents to only 10 coins and imposed restrictions on the process by which Bittrex could offer new coins. This would have prohibited Bittrex from listing coins that are offered to New York residents by other bit licensees. NYDFS reserved the right to order us to withdraw coins at any time. Additionally, DFS would be able to prohibit offering tokens to NY residents even if other NY bit license holders were able to offer the tokens. See, that's complete fucking bullshit, man. Number 2. Unrealistic capital requirements. NYDFS imposed capitalization requirements far in excess of that of any other state, despite Bittrex's industry-leading security and cold storage procedures. These requirements were based on pre-existing formula of hot wallet v. cold wallet storage that did not take into account the broad range of coins that Bittrex lists and ignored the risks of frequently moving assets from hot to cold storage. Bittrex offered a bond to cover the entire capitalization of all New York customers, in addition to the $1 million bond NYDFS requires for all licensees, but that was rejected. Number 3. Business harm. The agreement would have required Bittrex to obtain NYDFS approval to form or acquire any other entity. This would have significantly restricted our ability to create the appropriate corporate vehicles to expand in other jurisdictions. We attempted to negotiate the terms of the supervisory agreement, but were told that these terms were non-negotiable. After determining and that's bullshit too. The head of the NYDFS has sole authority to fucking waive any conditions of the agreement that he chooses. He's just being really fucking selective about the way he's doing it, or she. I don't know who it is. After determining the requirements imposed by the NYDFS would have materially affected our other parts of our business, including how Bittrex operates in other states and countries, we decided we could not sign the agreement. Thank you, Bittrex. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stick to your fucking guns. During the application process, which included extensive engagement with DFS, including on-site visits for a period of 4 weeks, Bittrex was responsive to all of DFS's requests for information. However, Bittrex respectfully but vigorously challenged DFS's attempt to apply traditional bank-centric regulatory rules to an entirely different model. We were not provided an opportunity to see or even comment on the findings before they were made public. While we are saddened to no longer be serving citizens of New York, we have been as transparent with the NYDFS as we have been with other regulatory agencies both in the United States and around the world. We do not challenge that Bittrex is on a journey to improving and maturing our compliance function. Less than 2 years ago, we were a company of only 4 people. Bittrex is a young, innovative company that believes in the future of blockchain technology. Bittrex will continue to mature its compliance program because we believe in being good corporate citizens and because we believe in the rule of law. We will continue to work with many other regulators, and we will continue to take constructive feedback to improve our ability to be the corporate citizens we have set out and committed to be. Thank you, Bittrex. That was very, very eloquent and very, very pointed. I pretty much predicted this shit. You know, I started digging around for it, and I could not find it, but I could swear I've uploaded it somewhere, an episode of me reading BitLicense. The original, I think it was back in 2014, 2015 when they passed that shit. Ben Losky was in charge of it. Anyway, I predicted that they would use these powers that they were endowing themselves both arbitrarily and capriciously, and they've done just that. If they were to apply the same level of scrutiny to, say, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase with their fucking coin, why isn't the NYDFS up Goldman Sachs' ass over USDC? They're basically counterfeiting US dollars with that thing, but, you know, who gives a fuck about counterfeiting, right? You know, we've been letting Tether get away with it for the last, 3 years now? 4 years? You know, people wonder where all the volatility went. You really believe that they've actually got access to $2.5 billion? No. Smart people don't. If they did, they would be able to provide an extensive audit to the public. But, no. The best we've gotten is an attestation, and it is not an audit. It just means for the period of examination, the entities of Tether had adequate access to adequate funds to back and collateralize all of the Tether outstanding. That's all it meant. As soon as the guy left, that shit could have gone to whoever it was originally owned by, or be re-encumbered the way it previously was. And no one is to know that any better, you know. The exposure was the one moment, and then that was it. And it's been the same for every single stable coin out there. I think there's been like 1, maybe 2 deviations from that, but pretty much all of them, the best that they can provide is an attestation. And that doesn't provide us any more security or trust, in my book anyway, than we had with regard to the Federal Reserve and other banks when cryptocurrencies were originated, when they were created. There's a reason why Bitcoin exists, you know. And if you do enough study, and it doesn't take too long to find out, you can do exactly that. And so, Bittrex, I don't care if you comply with the NYDFS. As far as I'm concerned, the NYDFS could be detonated tomorrow, and it really wouldn't make any difference to me. They are an entity that does overreach their authority, and pretty much is abusing the cryptosphere in New York. You know, that's been their whole program this entire time. That's why these morons still insist on talking about quote-unquote blockchain over cryptocurrencies, because they don't believe that you have any value. They'll buy Bitcoin in a fucking dark alley, pay cash for it, but they don't believe in the means that it was created, which is you. I find that very, very, dichotomous. You would think if they really believed in this enough to put money that costs them something to it, they would be buying miners. And there's nothing saying that they aren't. I wouldn't put it too far beyond reality to assume that they are. It's not that mining can't be done profitably by the average person. It's a lot easier to do if you've got a magic wand that you get to wave into existence millions of dollars to buy your warehouse, buy your miners, buy your electricity, buy your workforce to set it all up. But at the same time, it's just like that metaphor I was talking about earlier with cupping the river. Trying to capture the river with your hands. The same thing is true with mining, where as soon as the cement is hardened and you've got all your miners in place and you've got them all fired up, you've put your foot into the river. The river has not stopped flowing, and you will only occupy that spot for as long as you can. And then you will go away. Because the rest of the river will keep flowing and blow you away. And that's just all there is to it. Bitmain is still kind of dangling around a little bit. And as far as like really big mining behemoths, I think they've probably lasted the longest. But it's because they've been really, really smart about diversifying their location. They haven't just holed up in China. And so when other Chinese miners do have some little bit of friction with regard to the government, they don't experience it full force, because they've got shit established all over the place. They had something going on in Israel, but I guess that got shut down. But like I said, they are an international company. They're all over the fucking place. So the idea that the regulatory stricture that the Chinese government is attempting to put on crypto within the borders of China is going to adversely affect them as bad as it would have before, was a lot lower. Anyway, let's get down to the real deal here. Why all this talk about regulating cryptocurrencies and telling us what and who and how and when and all that other bullshit? And so here it is. It's on BitcoinWarrior.net. Can cryptocurrencies and blockchain empower Venezuela? My answer is yes, but not with the government's participation. This is authored the 11th of April 2019, so apparently it was authored by a time traveler. And let me see if they can actually give me the location of the original article. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. And this is authored by Jimmy Zong. And so, yeah, it was apparently authored 2 hours ago at 2:45 p.m. No indication of time zone. Same title, though. Cryptocurrencies found itself the most compelling use over the last year in the trouble-laden Venezuela. As hyperinflation and the struggling boulevard left its population starving, Venezuelans saw cryptocurrency as a gleaming opportunity to bypass the heavy economic censorship faced. Yes. Restricted from... My apologies. I've got this little rasp in the back of my throat here. Hold on a second. Let me resolve that. And there we are. Economic censorship faced. Restricted from sending or receiving money overseas, the onslaught of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies made it possible for Venezuelans to communicate and transact outside its borders with greater ease. With an exploding increase in peer-to-peer crypto trades, Venezuelans saw the arrival of its first cryptocurrencies and blockchain ATMs to facilitate transfers for Venezuelans in and out of the country, amidst other promising signs that could lead the mired nation a step closer to achieving economic freedom. While cryptocurrencies proved to be a viable alternative to fiat as the Troubles raged on, the road to widespread adoption is not without challenges. The recent blackout in March alone caused a drop in the total volume of Bitcoin transactions, which caused naysayers to doubt the feasibility of cryptocurrency being traded without access to electricity. Most of the content and resources on the blockchain technology and cryptocurrency available in English language, the predominantly Spanish-speaking Venezuelan community also have to overcome language barriers until such a time that resources are available in Spanish to make widespread adoption possible. In spite of these challenges, can crypto still hold its promise of empowering everyday Venezuelans to be a part of the global economy? The realities for cryptocurrency use in Venezuela were vastly different compared to the rest of the world, where cryptocurrencies are mainly a speculative investment tool. Amidst hyperinflation, its flailing fiat currency left its starving population to seek alternatives. As remittance payments from loved ones overseas also became worthless, Venezuelans needed a new way to store and transfer value. Given its decentralized and peer-to-peer nature, cryptocurrency transactions in public networks were outside of the control of any party. As the world often balked at cryptocurrency's volatility, Venezuelans who saw the bolivar weakened were not swayed by price shifts, but instead saw it as a viable alternative to make everyday transactions. For a country that faces censorship and tight control over the economy, the use of cryptocurrencies in Venezuela presents itself as not just a financial vehicle, but as a potential tool around many of its challenges. As international trade is limited in Venezuela, cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology allow the citizens to interact freely with the outside world by removing the borders that hindered the country from contributing to a stable world. Cryptocurrencies are a way to build business and commercial relations from the bottom up. While there have been encouraging signs, the work is far from done. Crypto adoption in Venezuela starts with education and making resources available to Venezuelans in their native language of Spanish is crucial to making the concept of cryptocurrencies and blockchain familiar to the masses. Along with an educational push, both international and local advocates should explore the untapped potential of those use cases in earnest. With more blockchain and cryptocurrency projects flowing into Venezuela to allow direct financial aid to Venezuelans from abroad, and even to surge in sales of Dash-ready smartphones that allowed users to send and receive Dash through SMS, the industry could find more ways to close the gap from a largely unbanked population to sovereign citizens that can possess greater control over their finances. The presence of strong communities in Venezuela, such as block producers and nodes like the Venezuelan block producers, who are they? A block producer across several blockchains including IOST, EOS, Telos, and Steam proved the mettle and ability of the Venezuelan community in its bid for greater economic freedom. In a short amount of time, Venezuela has seen cryptocurrency and blockchain adoption increase by leaps and bounds. as the decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies and blockchain broke down previous barriers and limitations, giving its citizens access to the rest of the world, the case for crypto presented itself as more than a tool of survival, but also as a means for empowering its citizens financially. With encouraging signs of support from both within and outside of Venezuela, the road is paved for cryptocurrencies to create an open economy that its citizens can finally actively participate in. I agree. And that's pretty much the use case that it's seen most ready use within countries like Venezuela has been the alternative of using it as money. We saw the same thing in Turkey. We saw the same thing in Greece. We've seen the same thing in Portugal, in Spain. We're going to see it throughout the Americas. And honestly, I think this is one of those points where Puerto Rico, if they can get their shit together with regard to cryptocurrencies, they can become a mega financial hub of the Western Hemisphere. They've got this legal gray area with regard to taxation, where they're not actually obligated to pay U.S. income tax, even though they're kind of a protectorate. Now they experience a great deal of premiums with regard to shipping items into Puerto Rico from the United States or elsewhere, but this again is a place where cryptocurrencies can serve a valuable function. Instead of needing to transact in US dollars, they could be transacting in cryptocurrencies instead, and entirely bypassing this taxation system and this system of premiums that's giving them a lot of pain. They've got plenty of access to hydropower. They've got plenty of access to solar. So mining could definitely take root there as a potential employer, an enhancement to the local economy. The one problem that I've seen with Puerto Rico, though, is that there have been several U.S. citizens that have gone down there with the promises of cryptocurrency and all that. And they really just laze around. They don't do anything. They just enjoy their time in Puerto Rico on cryptocurrency. And it's sad, because they could be presenting those people with a great deal of value. Again, they're under this cloak of regulatory uncertainty with regard to taxation on income and trading. So why not take advantage of it? And I mean for the people of Puerto Rico. I'm not talking about making some asshole in LA rich or New York rich or something like that. I mean, if somebody in one of those places wants to devote some cheddar to it, well, that's fine. But as long as it's got to be impacting the people of Puerto Rico in a positive way for them to want to participate in it. If it's just employing your nephew who isn't even a native of Puerto Rico, you give him like some permanent vacation and he just sits around in the warehouse and drinks pina coladas all day, that's not going to help the people of Puerto Rico very much. But, if you were to be doing something like investing in, doing like a joint venture in a large mining facility, and where you're going to have to employ people there in Puerto Rico to tend it. One of the ways that people develop pride in things is when they have some responsibility in it. And this has been one of the points in cryptocurrency where we've seen the most challenge, where governments are trying to take responsibility away from you. Banks are trying to take responsibility away from you. Companies are trying to take responsibility away from you. But the fact of the matter is that you don't actually need these entities in order to conduct business and commerce. So rather than letting their input and their opinions on these subjects matter to you, you can just simply ignore them and go about your day. And I think that's really what most people in cryptocurrency do. And then in the not so distant future, they are going to have to come to us requesting, no longer demanding, because the illusion of the effectiveness of the demand will have long worn off. But requesting that we participate positively with taxes and all that other shit. And what degree of compliance they actually see, that'll all depend on their ability to fulfill on their end. If it's not beneficial to you for them to invest your tax dollars into it, you have a little more say as to whether or not the tax funds are even collected. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music, and I'm feeling the need for a little bit of 9 Inch Nails here. I know that's not really considered traditional metal fare, but I think this song is pretty fucking metal. So here it is, The Becoming, here on Coin Metal. And that was Crowbar with Conquering. Gotta love that NOLA sludge. Anyway, it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. As far as our media for today, man, the whole thing with the NYDFS and Bittrex, it's very, very sad that the people of New York are being denied their rightful access to Bittrex's markets just because the NYDFS decides that, no, you shall not conduct business that we don't get a cut of. The real shame about it is that to even get as far as they did, it's really kind of lost on people that this is after 4 years of trying to get a fucking bit license with the NYDFS, 4 years of in-depth probing and reporting and all that other bullshit. And as a matter of fact, they had to pay a application fee just to apply for a bit license. So all that gone down the drain because reasons. NYDFS doesn't like you, dude. Oh well. Hopefully, after a while, this whole treating the people of New York like prisoners in a digital gulag will kind of sour with regard to the New York people of New York, and they'll put an end to that shit, or at least one could hope, right? Anyway, it is with that I'd like to close it out. Thank you again for listening. We're going to be back on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so until then, trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, let's see here. I was looking at Dope. I really like Dope. But I don't know, some of their songs doesn't really seem right, I mean, they're a little fucked up a little bit sometimes. So, I don't know. Let's go for it. I'm back. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening.